Hello, listeners of our podcast. This is the last yak of the year, a special yak, a yak retrospective. We wanted to distill a year's worth of watching Korean dramas into a single episode. So we fell back on the tried and tested format of listing the best and the worst. Why mess with a good formula? In the next 2 hours, we'll go over our top 3 dramas, honorable mentions, the worst sinners, older dramas that we finally watched, and the 2018 dramas we wish we hadn't missed. If you go down to the description, you'll find all the award categories laid out with timestamps. Use them wisely. What you won't find in this yak is any of the currently airing dramas. There are some really good ones, but we have learned through painful viewing experience that you can't judge a drama till its very last scene. A few other things before we start the episode. Saya and Anisa both have their year-end reviews up on Drama Beans. Links are below. You should go and read them. Both found themes to connect all the dramas they loved in 2018, and reading their articles made me see those stories in a completely different way. How am I friends with these amazing writers? The most writing I've done recently is the script for this intro. And Twitter, I guess. Which brings me to, at the beginning of December, we started the December Dramas hashtag to invite our Twitter friends to tell us about their 2018 hits and misses in one tweet review format. We got so many. So many. If I ever finish putting all of them in one blog post, I'll link that below. So please check that out as well. And finally, a word about our Patreon page. We started it because we need help running this podcast and improving it, but we hadn't really thought much about what to do with the actual Patreon page. It functions almost like a blog, and they let you make posts and upload audio there. So we were thinking, occasionally we like doing nerdy things like audio commentaries on random old dramas like Full House. It's fun for us, and for a handful of geeky listeners who would like to have us in their ear when they watch the drama too. But episodes like that don't do very well on our main podcast feed. We know because we can see the numbers. So, we thought the Patreon page would be a good space to put up these nerdy dives that only select listeners would actually be interested in. They'll be freely accessible, you don't have to pledge anything to listen to them. We hope that you can check them out, and we'll do one every few months or so. And if you do want to support us, then we'd be glad for that too. Okay, I'm all done. Enjoy the episode, guys. Paroma out.
Hey everyone, this is Saya.
This is Anisa.
And this is Paroma.
And this is our Year End Yak. Yay!
Oh, wow, you said it so well. Every time I tried saying that, it just comes out as Year End Yak.
Yeah, one of my joke suggestions for the title of this episode was actually the Yak's rear end. Okay.
Okay.
How was 2018 for everybody? Drama-wise, not life-wise. Although we could talk about that too.
Paroma, do you want to go first?
It wasn't very... It was weird. There were certain moments when there was a lot of hope from the dramas, and then the higher the hope, the greater the disappointment felt. So I don't know what to say about this particular year. I guess I appreciated having dramas to root for, like dramas that I had a lot of hopes for. It wasn't completely meh, which is always a good thing, but I wish that the disappointments weren't as resounding as they were.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a slim year, hasn't it?
Yeah, when we were thinking up our different dramas for the different categories we want to discuss today, it was really hard for me to figure out because I dropped a lot of dramas.
Yeah.
Like way more than you guys. You guys are more determined about drama watching than I am. If
Not
I
this
can't
year.
get into
Oh yeah,
drama-
me neither. I've dropped a lot of stuff this year.
Actually, that is my takeaway from this year. It's that I have learned how to drop dramas without regrets. Because it's like, it's about time. You're at this age and you're like, my life is finite. I feel it, and you really need to learn to drop stuff that isn't rewarding. So yeah, this was a year of learning to drop dramas. Just because the unrewardingness of some of the stuff I watched was so like unignorably bad. I still
also
made it
watched the most, I feel, out of the three of us. Like every month when we would come for our yaks, my list would be like 1 or 2 dramas, and Paroma had a respectable amount, and you would have this like long list.
Do you know why? It's because usually I'd be recapping more, isn't it, for Drama Beans? And this year I didn't really do a lot of recapping, sadly, but that means that this time I didn't spend recapping, this time I spent watching stuff. So that's why I have a ridiculous list of dramas that I watched to completion. But then I also, like, there's another 10 or so that I dropped, like, at some point in their run. And then, like, among the ones I've watched, there were ones I should have dropped. So, yeah, I am a bit ashamed of how much I've watched. But it was a product of, like, not doing work that would otherwise have taken up that time in my free time.
I felt a bit like a school kid while doing our podcasts, because I would leave the drama watching till almost the last moment. Like, not if I really got into a drama, but whenever we had a yak scheduled, like a week before that, I'd be like, wait, I have these 10 dramas.
Frantic marathons.
Yeah, 1 episode of each.
That's gonna be me tonight.
So I'm kind of glad I did that, though. I think this year, because we had the podcast, I have sampled more dramas than I had in any of the years before.
Oh, wow.
And that sort of let me experience the breadth of K-dramas as I have never done before. I've been pretty picky.
Right.
I've like, usually Saya watches something, she screams at me about it, and then I watch it. That has been my K-drama watching experience for like 5-6 years now.
Whereas with podcasting, because we've been doing the yaks every month, and with the yaks we've been previewing dramas, we actually like we know what's up. I mean, I kind of preview anyway, like by myself. But
yeah, you do. But I felt more.
Yeah, I felt like
I felt more responsible.
I feel like I didn't watch as much as I would have watched before, just because I was so busy with like school and stuff. But I think, like you said, I had an idea of what was coming up better. And then if I was watching something, I was more motivated to like stay up to date with it. Whereas before I would be like, that looks cool. I'll wait until like half of it is over and then I'll watch it and see if I like it, and I'll wait for what other people are. But then I was more motivated this time to like watch it for myself and keep up to date so I could share my thoughts as it was airing, you know, and we could discuss it on the podcast, especially if I knew that you guys were watching it too.
Yeah, more than what I thought. I wanted to know what you guys thought about these dramas. So
yeah,
it was fun.
In terms of general trends, for me, I think it was a year, like you said, of Paroma, of like unexpected, I guess, just surprises. Like there was a lot of things that I was really excited for that ended up really disappointing me, and then there were other things that were not on my radar at all, or like I was very tentatively interested in that ended up being really, really great and really enjoyable. So that was a trend for me. There's also a lot of stuff that I found to be more low-key and enjoyable in a more like slice of life. Like I feel like most of the stuff I really enjoyed tended to be more slice of life and low-key, rather than being like the really flashy, sparkly, you know, like epic romantic or like really, you know, the more, I guess, prestige type stuff. The prestige stuff didn't really hit me that much this year. It was more slice of life.
Right. I feel like if we were to sum up the sort of the general feel of 2018, it seems like that low-key, that healing thing has been the strongest tone, I guess, across.
I think so. Yeah.
Maybe not K-drama in general, but at least in what I've watched, that's been the dominant kind of feel in everying. But then it's been interesting to see that we're not the only ones who said this. Like everyone has seemed to have used that word in describing how 2018 was for them in dramas.
Yeah, and like none of us watched Mayajishi, but everyone was kind of saying the same thing about that one too, and that seems to be like kind of the hit of the year that everyone's been raving about.
That none of us have watched.
No, sorry guys.
Sorry.
We're gonna watch it.
It's been like the drama of the year, and the fact that it can't make any of our actual lists because we haven't watched it is like it needs to be recognized.
Yeah,
but
we missed out on that one while it was airing.
Yeah.
And we're well aware of the fact that we missed out as well.
So with that in mind, should we jump into our honorable mentions?
Let's.
Yes. To give credit where it's due, this year gave us a lot of new concepts and a lot of new ways of telling stories, and I think our honorable mentions definitely exemplify that. Um, should I start?
Yeah,
go.
Like, okay. I'm going to start with something that I had a lot of hopes for, but it just couldn't land in the end, and that's What's Wrong with Secretary Kim. I don't think I've ever loved Park Min Young more than in the first 7 or 8 episodes of this drama. Her character was so confident, and she was both relatable and aspirational. Like, she was this person who had an entire career behind her. She was respected in her workplace, but she was also done. She had made a decision, and she didn't think she owed anybody any explanation. She wanted to live for herself, and people around her were scrambling to adjust to a decision that she made. It was so refreshing to see this in a drama, and I genuinely enjoyed Park Seo Joon's character here as well. If I were ever to root for a narcissistic hero, he should be done like this. So yeah, I love these two together. I hope they work together again. But the reason this one didn't make my list was because Park Min Young's character, her agency was kind of the we loved her character because of the agency that she had. She had made a decision. She wanted a different life for herself, but in the end she fell in love with her boss and decided to just stay in the job and never experience life outside being BSO, a secretary. And it just completely ruined the wonderful arc that I was anticipating for her character. And also really, really compromised the lovely relationship that they were developing between these two. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Really.
That's I agree with you, and that's why I didn't even make it onto my honorable mentions, despite how much I enjoyed
the same thing.
12. Yeah. The first
Yeah.
12 episodes
And also,
were so good.
But how disappointed I was by the way it ended.
Yeah.
Like, that disappointment outweighs my enjoyment of the first half to the point that I'm like, you damn drama.
Yeah, it just left me with a bad feeling afterwards.
I think it's like Secretary Kim got lucky. I haven't actually watched like I managed to not watch too many great dramas. Like, I watched a lot of dramas. Like, I tried out a lot of great dramas, but I missed out on seemingly the best ones this year. So I am working with a limited pool of good dramas to begin with. So this one,
do you know how many dramas you watched this year, 2018?
I have not made notes, but honestly, I'm pretty sure it must be like, I'm talking about just first episodes. I must have watched a good 40.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, but I still managed to miss out some amazing gems, so which we'll get to later. And yeah. Okay, and the next one is I'm Not a Robot, which I know everybody loved. I really enjoyed, especially Chase Owen's character. I love the way I love the way she played the robot. I I have nothing but admiration for her, for not just her portrayal of Gia, but also, damn, it must have been really uncomfortable in that dress. That dress looked horribly
You know how
uncomfortable.
cold she was. She talks about it in the behind the scenes.
Poor
about
thing
how
is, I watched her interviews.
changed it.
I just, oh my god! But I love the themes of this drama, and we can talk about this later because I'm sure this one made your list for the best
So
one.
why
But
didn't it make your best list?
I think it was, and I don't know how to say this.
Like, what was missing in it for you?
I think ultimately it was not like the drama itself was complete. It was like a really good, satisfying meal. Like, the drama did never, like, it avoided all of the usual pitfalls that would like drag down a drama for you. So it wasn't that. It was somewhere I didn't buy the romance. And I know it sounds sacrilegious. I know that, but I think the problem wasn't with Chi Soo-bin's character for me. It was with what's the dude's name?
Yoo Sung-ho.
Yoo Sung-ho. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm
Mm.
sorry, but it was with Yoo Sung-ho. I had trouble with his character. Not that there was anything wrong with his character. It was just I couldn't connect with the actor's portrayal of the character. And this is funny. Saya, everything that you said about Yoo Sung-ho, about how like just expressive he is and how just generally fantastic an actor he is. I feel that now that I'm watching Baeksu has returned, Return of Baeksu.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that now with this drama, but for some reason it just didn't work for me, and I'm not a robot.
If you don't mind, if I like say one thing.
Yeah.
I agree with you about Yoo Sung-ho because like he's so good in Boksu's Return. But before this, I've always found him to be a little bit overacting in everything.
Thank you. Yes, exactly. That was
really good at crying, but sometimes I'm like, "Hi, you don't really need to cry in this scene. Like, it's okay. It's like take it down a notch." So I agree. Yeah.
The thing to remember with Yoo Sung-ho is that he's a dramatic actor, and this was his first act. Not counting the other drama. The proposal one. What was it called?
Operation Proposal.
Operation Proposal.
That was basically a rom-com.
Yeah, I mean, but he was really young then, like in a way that I wouldn't have expected anyone his age to be good at it. Whereas like he's in his mid-20s now. But this is his first like proper adult romance role. And so like I can see like I can't see, but I can see why you would say that, though I don't see it that way.
But I've even found him to be overacting in his dramatic roles, like in I Miss You. You know,
I haven't watched
or
that
Rambo or Sunspot.
But I felt like that's what the character demanded. But then Anisa wrote a thingy recently on one of the Drama Beans weekly watching posts about how he gives 200% when it needs to be 80, and I do agree, that's totally right. But I also that is Yoo Sung-ho to me, which is like, you know, he's despite everything, he's always a crown prince, and sometimes that crown princiness comes out, and sometimes, you know, whether he's talking to a playground bully or like a random person, he's suddenly the crown prince, and you're like.
So, I mean, I find that distracting. It takes me out of the story.
I actually really enjoyed that. So
basically, he's your baby, and he can do no wrong. We know. It's okay.
But I will give him that. He is amazing in Boksu's Return. Yeah. I totally understand what Saya meant about just generally his charisma. I never felt it before. I feel it now. So,
guys, go and watch what is it called? Warrior Pekdungsu, and
I will. That one
forever. Okay.
Okay. My third honorable mention is A Poem a Day, a drama that again we will definitely be talking about later. But it's hard to say why it didn't make my best list. I suppose it's. I think it was mostly because of one of the love interests of our heroine, Jang Dong-gyun. Yeah.
My
baby. Yeah, Shin Minho. Again, an actor I really like, and I understand, and he did an amazing job of portraying this character. But his character got really annoying.
He was skewered by the writing.
He was. It was definitely the fault of the way the character was formed. It was not his fault at all. He is amazing as always. But that was one, and the other reason that this drama kind of got, it's not that it got on my nerve, but I think, see, there is something amazing about the way they used poetry to subtly make certain points. But that subtlety completely went out of the window whenever they decided we needed a moral lesson. And the moral lesson would be it would be sledgehammer obvious. It would like hit you on the head, and then just to be sure that you were properly hit, they would get like a 2x4 and hit you again. It would be really, really blunt. So after a point, I was just like done with the moral lessons. I think one of the most egregious ones was the one where they decided to give us that it was towards the end, and I think one of the characters' son had been sent to another, like a foreign country, to learn English, and he was really fluent, and his colleagues were super impressed at this young boy who could fluently speak English, and they were like, oh, we should also teach our kids from a very young age. And then they saw the boy drinking out with his friends, and they're like, oh, so he was sent abroad to learn English, but he never learned what, like, virtue
Morals.
or
Yeah.
morals. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it became like learning English versus a character. It just, what, i I mean, it's like the broad strokes, the moral broad strokes these people used at certain points just got on my nerves. So yeah, it's in honorable mentions because it was really enjoyable. I loved the main pairing. I loved, like, look, I was Year Line through and through, so I am a happy camper. um, so yeah, I really enjoyed this drama. It's definitely one that I'm going to rewatch, and yeah.
Nice. So yeah, this is also in my honorable mentions, and I think I agree with you. Like, the poetry was beautiful. It was sometimes forcing. I think it's kind of forced some redemptions that didn't need to happen, and also there was kind of a disconnect for me between like the beauty of the poetry and the arcs, and like a lot of the relationships, and just the repetitive humor, and like the kind of, I know that it worked for a lot of people and some of it worked for me, but it was one of the things that just like I was not on board with from the beginning, and even by the end I was just like, so that's, I guess, just a personal preference, but I just found it like a very lazy writing choice to just have these catchphrases and use them over and over and over and over again.
So you don't want someone to give you some advice?
No. Well, maybe if it's Year End Yak, I'll make an exception, but I always make an exception for him. But yeah, also want to mention that EUB was incredible, and I love her, and she just carried this whole thing. She was.
Oh my God, yes.
She glowed.
She was. I'd completely forgotten where I'd seen her before, but it was Pinocchio, and she was this nosy, like fresh out of school reporter, and she was just, like, she had the most expressive eyes in that, and I am so happy that this drama made such good use of her ability to cry. It was great.
Well, can I give you some advice? Do not watch Scholar Who Walks the Night.
Oh yeah, I heard that was bad. I saw her for the first time in Nice Guy. She's like the younger sister of Song Joong-ki in that. And she has a love line with Lee Kwang-soo, but I loved her since then.
Okay, I did not remember that at all.
until you started talking about Lee Kwang-soo.
Yeah. I definitely really liked her since then, even though that drama as a whole made me really mad, and I don't have any good memories of it, but she's great.
There was one good instrumental soundtrack in that I can remember, but that's basically my takeaway from that drama. A revenge mellow that didn't really work for me.
Yeah. It was a waste of its really talented cast, in my opinion. Also, did you know that EUB's mother is like a really famous, talented actress, but when she was starting out,
really?
She like hid the fact that was her mother in order to like fairly get roles, and so it took her a long time to actually become famous. And then like it wasn't until after she got roles in some big dramas that she actually did some interviews, and her mom was like, yeah, that's my daughter, but she didn't want anyone to know that it was her mom.
Oh,
which just makes me like her more
now.
Yeah.
Her sister acts as well, doesn't she? Didn't she do I remember I watched her in was it a drama special with Daniel Choi?
Oh, I don't know about that.
I can't remember the name of it right now, but something about 20s.
Talented family, clearly.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so my final honorable mention is Beauty Inside, which is a drama I actually enjoyed a lot. It was like, it wasn't great, and there was quite a few questions left unanswered at the end. And the reason it fell from grace for me is because this one added on to the theme of ableism that some of the worst dramas of the year used, and it just, I really like it when they have, or at least one of the reasons I enjoyed this drama to begin with was because the hero had a disability. He worked hard to hide it from the world, but also to sort of compensate for his wait, what was it that he had? I think
Was it like face
he
blindness?
couldn't. Yeah, face blindness, right? He couldn't recognize faces. He worked really, really, really hard to like make sure that that was never an issue. Like that he was competent. That his ability to function as a businessman, as the CEO of a company, is never compromised because of his disease. And they undid all of that by a magic surgery at the end, and that just killed this drama for me. Especially because
Sounds like another
this
drama.
was, yeah.
Which
And
we'll be talking about later.
the reason he made the choice to have that surgery is, to me, the worst sin of this drama. It was not a good the reason was, um, the heroine's uh, um, inability to accept something that had happened, and she decided that his disability had, like, because she felt so guilty about him having the disability, she seemed to completely ignore all the effort he had put into living a normal life and his ability to live and love as a normal person despite his face blindness. It just she completely ignored all the effort he put into that, and because of her stubbornness he decided to take a really dangerous surgery. And
Oh.
I just can't forgive this drama for that. It gives us all sorts of messed up um messages, and I'm just, yeah, I was really, really disappointed with this drama, because aside from that, I really love this pair. People can complain about Eamon not having any expression in this drama throughout. I don't care. I love the subtle smiles and the like nods. That was all he did to express his emotions. That was enough for me. That was his character. And also, this needs to be mentioned. Idahi played his sister here and his workplace rival, and I adored their sibling relationship. And yeah, with that,
I would
that is
really
the
like
end of my honorable list.
Okay.
I was just quickly looking up the EUB's sister. So EUB's sister is called Elaine, and she did a drama special called 20 Years Old with Yi Guang. So it wasn't Daniel Cho. I was mixing that up with another one. It's really cute. Watch it. You'll like it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds cool. Thanks for the
Okay.
rec.
So those were my honorable mentions, and off to you guys.
Okay. Should I go first, or do you want to go
Go on.
first, Saya? Okay.
You go.
So, two of mine we're going to be talking about them more in depth later. So I'll just say that A Poem a Day and or You Forgot Poetry, like that had 2 titles, but I really liked that one. Just for the UB, and for just, it was a very warm slice of life show that had really great arcs for all of its characters. I loved the romance. And then another one of my honorable mentions was 30 but 17, which was just, I found the way that it dragged out the reveals frustrating, which is why it didn't make it onto my best list. And I also found that the romance was good, but it, like, the hero was just a little bit not as memorable for me. But I really loved Shin Hye-sun's performance, and it was just like Chen and all of it. It was just a really warm, healing show. So I loved it for that reason. And my third honorable mention is Familiar Wife, which didn't get a lot of love this year for some reason, but it was a really good time travel drama. Ji-sung was very good in it. Han Ji-min was the best I've ever seen her. I always find her to be bland, but she was really interesting and lively and very charismatic. And the ensemble cast was just really good. The best friend, Ji-sung's best friend, who is now playing the ex-husband in Boyfriend, was like one of my favorite actor discoveries of the year, because like he's a
really good actor.
He is. And in Familiar Wife, he's like so cute and funny, and his friendship with Ji-sung is like so adorable and like heartwarming. So yeah, it was good. It was a good drama. Like there's a lot of like small character stories in that drama that really, and I liked how they developed both of their characters. And one last thing is just, I liked how the first half of the drama was about him, but then the second half was actually about her, which is very unusual in one of these types of shows. So yeah.
Yeah, so the same as Anisa's, I've also got 30 Bit 17, and kind of similar to what you've said, the thing with 30 Bit 17 is it would have stuck more if another drama had not happened, which we will talk about. And of course, everyone already knows which drama that is. So, um, and yeah, if it had not dragged things out, if it had been a little bit sort of played less of a game with the viewers, then I think it would have stuck more, and like I would have had more goodwill about that. But it was in parts it was really frustrating. But yeah, I really liked it all the same. So I probably won't rewatch it, and I kind of have forgotten a lot about it now that it's not here anymore. But when I think about it, I feel very warm and fuzzy, especially when I think of Chan and when I think of Jennifer and no. And like all of just thinking about it does bring a big smile to my face. But like yeah, Yang Sejong, I found him a bit weak in this, and I know like I can see certain faces already kind of aghast, like how dare you? And like I love
agree.
Yang Sejong, okay, because like Temperature of Love was like one of my favorite dramas last year, and one of my all-time favorite romances. And again, nobody else loved this drama except me, but he was amazing in that. And so I've come into this drama knowing what he can do, and I don't think he quite did it all. But that may be because, like, in my head, he was competing with somebody else that I don't think he's ready to compete with yet. Yeah. So that's.
Yeah, I think it was. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go on.
No, I just think like when you brought up things like Jennifer and Chan, like I think it was a drama that for me was stronger in its moments than in its whole.
Right,
like,
exactly.
Some of the parts didn't quite live up to the individual parts for me.
And like the ensemble and the way that all of the characters were fleshed out, and how like that sense of family that you got from them, that was all, that was all really wonderful. But ultimately I probably wouldn't rewatch it. Although now I'm thinking of it, I might go and rewatch scenes of Chan being cute, because everyone needs Chan in their life. So that's it for the rom-com stuff. The next is serious, heavy stuff. So I'm actually, the thing is, I had one top drama for the whole year. Everything else is honorable mentions for me. So even if the other ones that I mentioned in my top, you can think of them as honorable mentions also, because I can't decide where they belong on this list. So this is not in any particular order. And also some of these are better dramas than I am sort of making them look, because like in choosing them, it's kind of like, well, how did it, my sort of criteria for choosing was how good was this objectively, and then subjectively, how did it make me feel? So my other honorable mentions, these are kind of, they do deserve to be in the top three, the best, but they're also, they don't quite win on the how did they make me feel. No, they do. I don't know, but yeah. Anyway, so Sketch, I would say, was definitely one of the best dramas of the year for me. But it was, I probably wouldn't watch it again. I'm not sure. So the interesting thing with when you watch stuff is that perspective is everything. Because I was reading another review of this show, and it turns out that everyone else is watching it one way and I'm watching it in a totally different way. So it's like, this is why I end up loving dramas that everyone else hates, because I guess I take the drama at face value rather than wanting it to be something and expecting it to be a certain way. So the way it comes to me is the way that I watch it. So this was, rather than being a stories of heroes and justice and rain and, the good stuff, this was kind of all of the bad stuff, which isn't usually, like, I don't usually like that, but it really worked because it was so humanizing. And it was kind of, it was a story of sort of the genesis of an anti-hero. And it wasn't, in fact, even one anti-hero. It had like at least 4, maybe we can push that to 6. But there were a lot of really dark and conflicted people in this who did some, sketchy things. That was unintentional. But it was like like the sort of the emotional immediacy of it. Like the whole thing starts with the two main players, one of them being Rain and the other being Jang Dong-gun. Each of them loses their significant other / spouse to a murderer. Like their partner gets murdered.
Isn't it Lee Dong-gun?
Oh yeah, sorry, wrong name. You're quite
No,
right.
it's fine.
Yeah, I was like, thinking of Suits at the same time. That bland and offensive drama. Anyway, yeah. So Lee Dong-gun and Rain. So and then they both go off and sort of their trajectories kind of diverge, where Rain kind of goes towards the hero's path and Lee Dong-gun goes towards the sort of villainous anti-hero thing. Except it turns out that their paths are not that different after all. And then you zoom out of their stories a little bit to see who the puppet master is, and then you zoom out more and there's something else, and it's really like it's layers on layers. It's really well done. So it's a very sort of a complex, well built world, and all of their motivations are really sort of relatable. Like you can understand why they're doing what they're doing, even though you know it's that whole, you know, do the ends justify the means. And there's lots of murder and death and mysteries, but it's really good. Yeah, it's really good. I don't know why it's not in my top, but maybe it should be. Now that I'm talking about it and remembering it. The last one I will put in my honorable mentions is Mother. Again, this is probably better than I'm giving it credit for, but I guess these were quite early in the year, so like the emotions of watching it have faded a little. And because it was a difficult watch. It was amazing, but I wouldn't watch it again. And that was Lee Bo-young, who kidnaps and goes on the run with a little girl who was being abused by her mother. And then that whole, you know, everything that goes down with that. And it was, oh gosh, it was intense. And what was amazing about this drama was that it was pretty much all about, like, it was so centered on all its women. And there wasn't just like one type of woman, there was every type. You had the abusive mother, you had Lee Bo-young herself, who is like, you know, has layers to her that you uncover as the show goes on. You have the little girl the girl who's being abused. You have Lee Bo-young's own mother. You have her sisters. You have, like, there was so much going on in this show, and it was like the way it was shot was really like beautiful. It was very stark. It was, you know, like, you know, what is it, windswept meadows, and you can practically see the breeze coming off the sea and that kind of thing. It was very spare. Again, I'm not quite sure why it wouldn't make the top list. I'm not very good at this, am I? It was a good show.
You're the one who decided to do top 3 rather than top 5. I'm not going to say anything.
I'm sorry. These are all very good shows. There's actually, I mean, there's nothing about it that I would say was bad. Same with Sketch. There's nothing about it that I would say, oh, this is why it didn't make it to the top 3 or whatever. It's probably just because I limited myself to 3.
It was just that there were 3 that were better than these for you.
Oh, there was 1, and everything else is the category below that.
Okay.
So finally, we are at the best of the year, and we have 3 picks each, and we are going to start with our third picks, and then kind of like serially go towards our favorite of the year. And should I start?
Yes.
Yay!
Okay, yay. So my third best drama of the year is 30/17. It's, I know that it's not perfect. There are some flaws, but overall it just gives me so much joy watching this drama that it's hard for me to really like focus on those flaws and be like, well, you know what? I just can't focus on those flaws. I know what they are. I realize that for a lot of people, the amount of time they took to reveal certain secrets, like very obvious ones, was really frustrating. But I was willing to suspend my disbelief and let the PD and writer take their time to develop the major relationships, especially between Shin Hye-sun and Yang Se-jong's characters. I thought that they needed that much time for Woo Seori to grow up and for Gong Woo-jin to be attached enough to Woo Seori and to love her enough that his guilt, when he finally realized what had happened, and then, the whole survivor's guilt thing kicks in again. It just, I don't think they would have gotten through it as smoothly as they did if he had found out her identity before, or if she had realized that her friend had been killed, a long back. It's just that was a lot of emotional baggage that they could deal with because the relationship had time to grow strong. So yeah.
Can I add something there?
Yeah, sure.
So I do have to say, I mean, I'm one of the naysayers about the flaws of this show. It's like those flaws did bother me enough that it didn't make it into my top list. But one of the things that this show really did do, one of the reveals that it did really fantastically that we could not have guessed at before was, you remember towards the end there was this point in one of the later episodes, where one of the very late episodes, where Sori goes to Ujin, what if everything you know, what if what you know isn't everything? And then like it suddenly becomes like this whole new perspective of like a story that
of their childhood relationship,
that we hadn't even had a hint of beforehand, that actually it wasn't just that he had liked her and that he had been interested in her and had been noticing her,
watching her.
She also had been noticing him. I didn't want to say watching because that sounds creepy, and it wasn't creepy. But like she had registered him and she had noticed him for reasons of her own, and she knew who he was. And that moment where she realizes he's that guy, it was like that was such that was probably its best reveal. But it had Yes, but like the way that they didn't do the bait thing they did, like they didn't bait us with that. It exposed it in this really beautiful, natural way. That was a really wonderfully done part. I have to agree with you on that.
Yeah, I completely agree. It completely sealed the deal where the relationship was concerned. It was just like cherry on the top. It was not necessary, but it just made everything perfect.
And that whole thing about like how you were saying that her choices were so important in building the relationship between them, and in the end, that even the fact that she chose not to leave in the end, and how different this is to what didn't work in Secretary Kim, which is that in that Secretary Kim couldn't leave, right? But it didn't work, and in this she didn't leave and it did work, like for totally different, because it was
it's all about her agency,
right?
Deciding that she wanted to do things on her own timeline and not because she felt like she missed out on something or that it's too late for something. I agree.
It's really well done.
Yes.
And it really resonated with us, didn't it? Like for different reasons, many of us, we have like we've been told over and over that age restricts what we can do, and like we're always fighting against time to reach our career goals. And I really like that towards the end, like what we saw through Wuchori was that it's okay to take your time to reach your goals. That you don't have to do it according to somebody else's timeline, and like it doesn't matter if society says that it's too late, hurry up and do these things. You should take your own time. So
the intermission is part of the show. Really
exactly. That was
wonderful.
Such a lovely line. The two other reasons I love this drama, one is of course Yu-chan. The other one is Doku, which is Fang. I love the way this drama treated that dog. I am so used to seeing K-dramas where dogs tied outside their door, and that is how apparently they treat their pets. I would rather believe that is not the reality on the ground. And I just love that this dog was not just well loved, but that he was an actual character who was an integral part of a major plot line. So I really appreciated that about this drama. Okay,
And for
who's
anyone
next?
who doesn't know, that was 2 dogs in real life. Two very
Yeah, two
dogs.
very adorable dogs.
I feel like we didn't give enough of an ovation / love letter for Chan. We all love Chan to bits.
Yes.
We
As
love
we
it.
have noted many times on this podcast and on Twitter.
And everywhere.
Yes.
There's never enough Chan. I want him to be my nephew too.
Exactly. We want to adopt him. My number 2 was Live, which it's about a bunch of police officers. It's kind of a slice of life. It's by No Hee Kyung, who also wrote like Dear My Friends, It's Okay, It's Love, a lot of really highly regarded dramas that have really good scripts. It stars Lee Kwang-soo, Jung Yoo-mi, and they're basically like these rookie cops who end up being police officers, even though like basically because they couldn't get jobs anywhere else. I initially was thinking it was going to be a little too all about how it's really hard for police officers and we should feel sorry for them, and I wasn't really in the mood for that in 2018. But but I was like convalescing. I watched it a couple of weeks ago actually, and it was on Netflix, and I just binged it, and I really, really loved it. It was so moving, and it was very realistic about the kind of things that you have to deal with in terms of just the difficulty of being in a job that serves the public, but it also is very honest about things like police brutality and corruption. It doesn't let them off the hook. And I think the most moving thing for me was the relationship between 2 veteran cops that were kind of like sunbays to the main characters, who were played by Bae Jang-wook and Bae Sung-woo, and they were like a married couple who's kind of been estranged for a long time, and they start out kind of divorcing, and their whole relationship and their relationship to like their parents who are elderly and or have passed away, and it's just really, really heartwarming to see that character, like the husband. I think he was the best performance in the entire show, and his relationship with Lee Kwang-soo as well, who is his hubei. I just really loved the whole team dynamic, and the ensemble there was a lot of little stories that were very impactful. I think it's one of the best slice of life dramas that I've seen. So I highly recommend that. And I kind of loved, like we were talking about Nice Guy and Yubi and Lee Kwang-soo, and both of them had like really good dramas this year when they were just like small little supporting characters back then. So
pretty much every drama is better with Lee Kwang-soo in it.
I agree, and I've been waiting for him to get a dramatic lead role for such a long time.
And like you know that No Hee Kyung loves him, so it's like he always turns up in her dramas
he's
with
become
these
one of hers.
Yeah,
that's really nice.
Stable.
Exactly. That was Live. Highly recommend.
Yeah.
Saya.
Saya next. Okay, so my number 3 is Lawless Lawyer, also called Lawless Attorney some places, Lee Jung-gi, Soyeji, and lots of other fun, what is it called? Gangster peoples. The villains in this were played by Lee Hae-young and Choi Min-soo. So what's great about this drama is that basically it's really, really fun. And I have a very soft spot for Lee Jung-gi. And the last thing I saw him in was the egregious and abominable Criminal Minds, for which, yes, he deserves to be punished. But better than punishment, I suppose, is making up for it with a really good back on form drama, and like everything that he's good at, which is being cheeky, which is being actiony and something of a snake charmer, and it's like it's flamboyant, it's stylish, and I really enjoyed it. And like it's this I know that some people kind of laugh at how overboard it went, but it was really like it worked for the show. With like it always had this sort of backlight, and Lee Jung-gi practically had a halo half the time, and it was so great. It was like
some people, as in Paroma. I remember that.
So yeah. No, I do think the smoke machine was like going a bit too far, but that's just me.
No, you need atmosphere, man. But the best thing about this drama was the way that the lead pair, you had Soyeji was an absolute equal to Ijingi. She was not a damsel. She was not a damsel. She was not relegated to second string. She wasn't constantly trying to be good enough or catching up. She was like his absolute equal, and he respected her. And it's so unusual. It's strange to say that it's so unusual still to see that kind of respect between a lead pair, but it is, surprisingly enough. And for me, that's one of those things that it always resonates when you see that level of respect between people, because it's not like love is easy. Everyone can do love's not hard. But to genuinely have that kind of respect for each other, in your skills, in your badassery, in knowing that you need that person for your plans to work, as in they are necessary to you because they are serving because they are functional. They're not spare pieces.
It's an equal partnership.
Right. I really like that. And I really like Soyeji as well. And I love her voice and her hair, and she's so pretty, and yeah, not girl crushing here. But yeah, I just really like that. It was fun. I think the thing that stands out to me the most is just how full of warmth and emotion that it was. And it had some pretty dark and pretty cool villains, actually, because you know how good Lee is. And she also had she was the one of the mothers in Mother earlier in the year, and just a total kind of reversal in the type of character that she's got here. And Cheminsu, who is always like blasting it out of the park, he's just phenomenal and terrible and somehow still sympathetic. It was a good cast, and it was well written. The acting was great. The feels were all there. It was fun. I liked it.
I have to watch that.
Yeah, but just don't take it too seriously, otherwise you won't enjoy it.
Yeah, right out of the park. The reason our heroine sort of storms out of her job, and the way she does it, if you take this drama seriously and expect it to live up to actual letter of the law, then yeah,
then you're
fall
gonna
apart really quickly.
So very different experience from live is what you're saying.
Yes, absolutely different.
Okay. Paroma, you want to talk about your number 2 drama?
Yes, I want to talk about my number 2, which is 100 Million Stars from the Sky, or The Smile Has Left Your Eyes. I don't know if there is anybody listening to us who doesn't know how much I adore Seon Gok. I adore Seon Gok.
Doubtful.
I do. I love him in everything he's ever done. But this one, he does morally complex characters well, but just Kim Woo-young's character is layered with so much. It's difficult to explain, but he is at once vulnerable and very, very dangerous. And somehow Seoin-guk plays this character without ever making you pity him or hate him. He's intensely attractive in the way he plays this character. And Jang So-min is equally amazing. As she's a woman who seems very straightforward, but her character turns out to be someone with such power of conviction. Look, this drama is really hard to explain, but you guys know how much I do not like sad, depressing stories. I do not like watching dramas where there is this hint of tragedy all over the story. And now this drama,
it sounds like it's a full-on tragedy, man. With a hint
so
of
no,
tragedy.
it's not a full-on tragedy, but if you from the very first scene, pretty much it has this ethos of this slightly grey tinge to the entire scene, or like a very DC green tinge, which tells you that this is a sort of a slightly melodramatic.
Don't associate with DC. That's terrible. No, don't.
No, but one of the reasons that I won't go into the whole DC Marvel thing, but the use of green usually tells you that this is supposed to be a more realistic, like there is going to be
Right.
sadness explored here somewhere. It's a cinematic cue, and they
Oh,
use
okay.
that here. So you start off kind of wondering, when is this thing going to get sad? But instead of exploring sadness, which there is plenty of sadness in some of the backstories here, instead of doing that, the drama instead focuses on morality, or rather the sort of a moral character the Seoin-guk's Kim Woo-young is. And the drama is all about these ridiculous things that he's doing that is criminal, but what we are focusing on is his intent. Why is he doing it? There is this entire mystery wrapped in another mystery, and it's all about figuring that out, because Kim Woo Young is not going to tell you why he's doing these things. So Jang So Min's character and her Park Sung Woong, the one playing her older brother, they have to figure it out from their very sort of diametrically opposite positions. Like one person wants to save Seon Guk, the other person thinks that he's like this horrible Machiavellian person who should be in jail. So
yeah, and
okay.
I mean, I only watched. I watched the Japanese version, but I only watched like 6 episodes of the Korean one. But I think what you're getting at is like the tone of the drama is very much, it's not about making you cry, it's about keeping you off balance and keeping you in suspense. And so it's like that tense kind of feeling. It doesn't really allow you to get bogged down in like, oh my god, this is so sad, oh my god, like you're just kind of like on tenterhooks the whole time, just waiting to see what's going to happen next, which is really cool.
Exactly. And I don't think any actors could have done it, played these characters better than this particular cast. It was brilliantly cast, really tightly written, and just everything hit my heart so hard.
So I can't wait to finish.
That doesn't make me less scared to watch it.
You watched Mother.
Exactly.
You cannot be scared of watching this drama.
Yeah, but I was scared watching that too. It's only because I was already into it that I couldn't leave it.
But you said you don't regret it, so you won't regret this.
But I also don't think I could watch it again. It was very harrowing.
Yeah, just watch it once.
I suppose that's all you need to do.
So, my number 2 is actually going to be somebody else's number 1.
You can't give things away like that, Anisa.
I'm not saying
wonder who is it could be.
Yeah, but you can
come on, man, guess. It's gonna be a huge surprise.
Yes. So you can guess whose number 1 was actually I'm Not a Robot, but that was my number 2, and we'll just save our discussion of that until we get to that one. Mm-hmm. So Saya, go ahead with your number 2.
So my number 2 is a Paroma Day, aka Who Forgot Poetry, which we have somewhat talked about. But yeah, this show is such a like I said in my Twitter review, it's like it's a hug given human form. It's just everything about it is so warm and embracing and wonderful, and it's exactly like it's what you guys have already said. It's EUB. It just owns this show, and let there be no dispute about the fact that this was her show. There's no second string. There's no second lead. There's nothing here except she is the single, the axis upon like which this show turns. She's amazing. Is this her first like lead actually?
I think. Well, she's technically the lead in Scholar Who Walks the Night.
Yeah,
that's more about the guys in that, right? And we've also agreed to erase that from the record.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, that does not exist.
Yeah, I mean, it's because we've been watching her for really quite some time, and I think anyone who's watched her going back however far has been waiting for her to get her lead.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's the perfect show for her. And Joe, I have other things to say. Oh, right. So like the best thing that this show did is that it centered her as the linchpin of the show, and her choices were what drove the show. And I know that we all know about how the fandom went with the whole who to ship and how to ship them, and like when you're watching it from the beginning and you're like, I remember that whole not knowing who to ship, because I was like, I wanted to ship the year line, but I wasn't sure if he was the real lead or not. So it was like at one point you're just like, I don't know what to do. But and the other thing
By the
is
laws of drama land, he shouldn't be the lead.
right, exactly,
But
because
I was so ride or die for him from the beginning. I just didn't care.
Oh,
yeah, but I like to save myself pain, so I don't ship second leads if I can help it, because it's like there's no point. You're
No, I'm the
just setting
same.
yourself up for no reason. Don't do it.
Year End Yak is special, though. He's has a special place in my heart.
he is special, but when our heroine Boyoung had been introduced to us, she, like, with all the cues that the drama had been giving us, we were made to understand that she's so immature that her having a crush on an older man could only be a crush that would peter off, and then she would go for the younger guy, like her own age, because she is immature. She cries like just at random
And
moments.
because
She
the
cannot
laws of
deal with
drama land.
hardship,
Yeah.
and also laws of drama land. But
Yeah.
And
then,
first loves and all of
as
that.
the exactly first love, but as the relationship develops, you realize that we had not been given enough information about this girl. You realize that she is stronger than we had initially thought, that her expressing her feelings does not mean that she's weak or unable to deal with those feelings, and
Yeah.
like she's more
Also, the
mature
fact
than we
that
had
she's
expected.
grown, and like the past her that you meet is kind of, it's still like an authentic version of her, but in the interim between, like, that time and now, she's grown, and we are able to see her growth as that character as well. Like, we are able to see that growth has occurred in the past, but she continues to grow going forward. And this is like, it's one of the things that a lot of, like, I think nearly all of the characters in this show showed a kind of a meaningful growth in that way.
Yeah. I think
And
that was the strongest part of the writing.
yeah, and also I just have a big huge soft spot for the whole flash mob thing, which I think that was the moment it cracked my heart open. It was like, it really worked for me, because of course, like, I don't know if all of our listeners are aware that the reason that this show came to exist is in the aftermath of the suicide of the PD of Drinking Solo, who was, a member of this team, this same team. And this was a way, making this show is a way for them to process their own grief. So, like, you could really feel that it really that feeling transmitted across, like, from them to us. And I think that the purpose of the show was to transmit that feeling, and I think it worked.
So we're at our number ones. Paroma, what was your number one drama of 2018?
I am not. My number one drama of 2018 is probably lower on pretty much everybody else's list, and I kind of feel like I should have had something else up here,
You don't need to
because
apologize for your favorites.
no, I do want to, though, because this is one of those dramas that kind of proves how I am not objective about the stuff I watch. It's not a good drama by a lot of standards, but I love the writing. The cast was fresh, but they did a good job, and the stories that were told were new, which really caught my attention. And the drama is My ID is Gangnam Beauty. It's a youth drama, and I expected it to be very fluffy and sort of I don't know, skin deep, because you know
Because
beauty.
beauty is only skin. Am I right? Sorry.
Yes, pretty much. Lame. I know. But I was surprised by how many different perspectives the writer managed to cram into this drama. Like, it wasn't just a matter of, hey, look beyond the face and love the character, not the, uh, I don't know. Like, I'm just, yeah, but it's more than just about digging under the surface. It's more like accepting everybody's choice or right to look the way they want to. If they want to change their face, that's their right. If they want to be accepted for who they are, and they want you to look beyond their face, and that's their right. You have to accept people's choices. So it comes down to two things that this drama does really well. The first is that it gives us, actually the first thing that this drama does really well is give us a college environment that feels like a college environment. It's not one of those dramas where you have this entire story taking place on a campus and you never see anybody in class. So this is not one of those dramas. You have senior students interacting with junior students, and small but poignant arcs taking place within those interactions. There are entire relationships and backstories that are explained to you within few scenes, and it never feels like they're stuffing the story with more story. But there, it almost feels like an ensemble cast drama instead of a drama that focuses just on um, Im So Hyung and Cha Yun Woo's characters. Those are supposedly the main leads. And they are, but the drama doesn't just sit on their shoulders. They have a pretty talented supporting cast. I think most of the cast is more experienced. The most of the cast is filled with more experienced actors than the main leads. You can actually tell, like our main leads, the ones who are playing Kang Mire and Do Kyung Suk. These are the beautiful, like faces of the drama, but the drama just like they have a very sweet love story, but that is not all that My Name is Gangnam Beauty is about. It's about them growing by interacting with the people around them. Sometimes it's about the main couple interacting with each other and learning from each other, and sometimes it's about the main couple realizing that they are not the center of the story. There is literally a moment towards the end of this drama where these two are very scared about a reveal happening. Then they walk into some place and they expect people to notice them and notice this thing that they were hiding till then, and nobody does. And then they kind of look at each other and they're like, I guess it isn't, like we aren't the center of everybody's world.
That's great.
And I love that. I loved so many small moments in this drama that were about character growth. And unless you actually watch this drama and experience that growth with them, it's really hard to explain why I have already watched this 3 times.
Wow.
That's some testament, actually.
So yeah, this one is my favorite.
So my number one drama of 2018 was Just Between Lovers. And I kind of want to call back to something that you were saying, Paroma, about 100 Million Stars from the Sky, and how even though it's a very melodramatic setup in terms of plot and premise, it doesn't feel melodramatic. Even though, like, Just Between Lovers is, on paper, it's a melodrama, but it's so delicate with its characters' feelings. It's so well written. It's so realistic. It's very real, and there are a lot of moments that feel uncomfortable, but the basic premise being, oh, these 2 kids were in this terrible, shopping mall collapse, which is something that actually happened. And the drama starts out with like images from that actual site, like that tragedy. And then they meet once again as adults, but it doesn't milk that for dramatic and like over the top sort of histrionics. Instead, it says, okay, like, so all these people who dealt with this really traumatic thing in the past, how would they be living now? Like, what would they be? How would they have processed that or not processed that? Would they have been able to move on? These families that have lost family members, how would they be living like 10, 15 years later? And it does a really realistic job. And like the way that they portrayed PTSD, especially in the main character, who's played by Junho, it was so real and so well done. And I was just really blown away by that. And just everything about the relationships, the way that it depicts the realities of how sad and disappointing and difficult life can be, while also being really uplifting in terms of how people just like find each other and love each other and get each other through and find hope, and how they can heal and move on. But it was never like moralistic or overly simplistic. It was just really, really well done. And I also want to give a shout out to like the cast. Wanjana and Juno were amazing, and then like there was this grandma character played by Namuni who was so good. She made me cry so much. It was a wonderful romance. The leads were very respectful of each other, again, which seems to be another theme of the dramas that we love this year. Yeah. They really saw each other as like, oh, this is another human who went through something really horrible. But they never hated each other. They always kind of were there to support each other. They had this like unspoken rapport that was just really incredible to watch. So for all those reasons. And they gave each other the best hugs. Their hugs were so good. So yeah, favorite drama of the year for me.
I'm looking forward to this one as well. This is from, it was from one of the writers of Secret, right?
Yeah, I think it's the same writer. I'm not sure.
The better writer. There were two writers.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize there were two, but yeah, it's
one of them went on to write Time this year, so the other writer.
I see. Okay, so the good one out of those.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Yeah, but no, generally, like even though I really loved I'm Not a Robot, but for me this one had so much more emotional impact that I had to pick this one as my number one. So on that note, yes, Lia, I really wonder.
The huge surprise here is, do I even need to say the name? Yeah, I'm Not a Robot was my favorite drama this year. And I mean, to be honest, it didn't have a lot of competition, which does not take away from how good a drama I found this. Though I do wonder, like, if I had watched Just Between Lovers and if I had watched Majishi, would my list be different? But I'm quite glad that I don't have to make that choice now, because I'm happy for this drama to be my number one. But that said, right now I can't think of like all of the reasons why, except that I know that I loved every single part of it, and I've probably talked it to death at this point, which is why I can't think of anything else to add.
Well, I'll help you out, since it was also
Yes,
my number two. I think for me, what I loved the most about it was the main character, like the Gia character, and how smart and independent she was, and how she kind of just the performance from Chaesubin, like she plays three characters basically, like he knows her in three different forms, and she's like amazing in all of them. And then she also plays the robot itself, which you can always tell who exactly she's playing, and all of them are done so perfectly. And the whole it's like what you were saying, Paroma, about like the themes in terms of how it treats her character, and how it talks about like I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. You were talking about how
it's like the
female character, how she's an entrepreneur. Yeah, she's very different from any other heroine that we've gotten.
And it's like what's really exciting about having different characters is that you can take them to different places, and like that makes. I mean, this was the first of the robot dramas. We haven't really had anything else that I can recall before this. And there were more this year, and I actually didn't watch any of them except this one. But like, it was a show. For example, for me, 30-bit 17 suffered from being in I'm Not a Robot's shadow, because it did a lot of the same things, but in a much more heightened way. Like all of the emotions were so heightened. The stakes felt much more sort of live or die, and like Yusunho is like, I think he's amazing as an actor, and I know that you guys don't 100% agree, and it's fine.
I do now. I have to say that.
And because also, bearing in mind that all of the things that he's done before this have been sort of heavy on the drama, he's much more of a melodramatic actor than he is like full-on rom-com type of thing, and to see him do this sort of light-hearted character, not light-hearted, but like a character that is just like dumb in so many ways. I think part of it is like it sort of it thingies, what is it? It tugs your heartstrings as a like in a sort of a little brother capacity. You're like, oh, my babies. So yeah, I find him very affecting, very emotionally affecting as an actor. Like he brings the emotions home in a way that not a lot of people his age can or do. And because he was combining this sort of essentially tragic character with also a very bumbling, socially not even awkward, but socially incapable. You know, this is the guy
like
who
an Arrested Development kind of thing,
yes,
where he just never got beyond a certain point.
right. And it's like, you know, you can think of certain scenes, like, you know, when he's like invited his researchers to dinner and he calls them researcher 1, researcher 2, and researcher 3, and you're like he does this all so well, and then like he breaks open, like completely vulnerable. It's like he does everything in this one role. He shows every side of like his capacity to act, more or less. I think I don't know.
Also the writing was just so strong, and
yes,
it deals with so many different themes without making it feel like, oh my gosh, this drama is trying to do too much. Like you're dealing with the artificial intelligence and whether that can be a replacement for a human being. You're dealing with like, what do you do
chronic
when you find out that chronic illness, yeah, and then like finding out that the person that you love has been lying to you this whole time. Then there's also this whole thing about how these geniuses who are building the robot are always
or like you know EQ.
Yeah, and then but she actually, and then they realize that like she has always had this complex that like she's not that smart, but they're like, no, actually you have a lot to offer, and it's not only about like being a genius on
like you're everything that they're missing.
Yeah, so it's that part as well. It's just deals with so many interesting,
and their chemistry was so good as well. Like if they didn't have that chemistry, and remember that Yusunger wasn't originally, he wasn't the first choice for this character. Imagine if that had been the other actor who was meant to do, I think, Dongha. So
I mean, like, I think Dongha would have been amazing too.
He wouldn't have been the same. I don't think it would have been the same.
Everyone is the other actor in comparison to Lee Sung-ho in your eyes. You can't deny that. But no, he was really good in it. He did a really good job.
Yeah, I can't agree. I'm sorry about Dongha doing the same job.
I don't think he would have done the same job. I think he would have been really good though. He would have been different.
I don't know if I'd have loved him as much.
You wouldn't have. Because you love Yoo Sung-ho to distraction. But I also just really, really love Dongha. Like, if you had watched Chief Kim, I don't know if you watched that.
Oh, maybe that's what. Yeah, I guess I watched him being murderers.
Yeah, he's so funny. He is so funny and awkward and weird in that. It's the best.
Oh, okay.
And he has this like weird little vulnerable underbelly that just like comes. It's just the best. You need to watch Chief Kim. Is my conclusion.
I don't want to change my mind about this.
Okay, I don't want to undercut the sort of like, I don't know, Song of Triumph here, but I remembered one of the reasons why he didn't make. Okay, then.
No,
let her talk.
I was joking. She's meant to carry on talking.
No, I'm sorry. I don't want to do this, but I remembered why this one didn't make it into my top 3, and it didn't have. It's not just about the actors. It's one part of the story that I found was really weak. It was throughout the. Throughout the drama, you had this group of people who were secretly monitoring our hero, right? And here's the thing: there was an immense breach of privacy done. It wasn't just the breach of trust that they focused on, which our hero focused on, and they apologized for, and then everything was hunky-dory. There was a horrible breach of privacy, and it was never sufficiently addressed. And to me, that was a really big flaw in the story, because I could not forgive. Like, he forgave these guys, I could not forgive what they had done. And these are supposed to be ethical. Like, yes, I mean, I know they're outcasts, but they're also supposed to be the ethical characters in this drama, right? but I
feel-
have really, really harsh feelings towards that group of scientists.
I get what you're saying, but I feel like this is a particular point where I'm like I cannot hold K-dramas to the standard of like any kind of standard when it comes to privacy. I don't know if this is like a Korean thing or an Asian thing, but for example, in my country, not England, in Bangladesh, they have no sense of privacy, like none. So like the entire concept of like privacy is such like a non-concept to them that like when it comes to K-dramas, I find that they have the same kind of like non-concept of it. So as much as I agree with the fact that that was a really terrible thing and it bothered me like the entire time, it's also one of those things that I file away under I don't think they understand what's wrong here, and they never did address it actually. They sort of semi started to, but they didn't quite in the end. But yeah, some things you just have to be like, okay, I saw that, but I didn't see it, and then
I
go on.
don't think I can excuse them that easily, because this is the same country that's going through in the last 5 years. It's going through the whole Bulgam camera scandal thing. They
Yeah.
know what it is like to have their privacy invaded, not just in a whole bathroom sexual context, but also just in a day-to-day life. I
Women
really don't
know
think
what it's like. The men are still
women
not
were the
getting the
one.
problem. Do you get the difference here?
Yeah, but
It's
the
Yes,
like the
woman
men
but
is
don't see
writing
the
the
problem.
so
I
many
think your
of
woman
these
is writing the
writers are
script.
women.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just
I
I
mean,
can't hold it to
I
real
get
life
your love for this
values in
drama.
that
I
way.
do. But this is what stood out to me in this drama. So, like, the
No, I
things that
agree. I
stood
mean,
out to me in this
I
drama was
think I
what
brought
pulled
it
it
up
down for
several
me.
times when I was writing about it as well, and it's like I do agree.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't agree. It's just that there's only so much they're going to address, and I don't know. In the end, this wasn't such a. It didn't
It
stand out to
wasn't
me as much as it did to you.
this
I didn't
wasn't
hold
a
on to
big
it.
deal for the characters. This wasn't a big deal for Yusung Ho's character. This wasn't why he was hurt.
Right, I know. As in,
So
it wasn't an in-world issue. It was in sort of a
exactly.
real-world
So
issue
it was fine.
for us all
So
to
long
deal
as you're
with. Yeah.
going with the flow of
But
what the
like I
drama is.
absolutely agree. I mean that's not even if any of this was real life, you wouldn't like any of it, frankly. It would all be terrible and
Oh, okay.
unforgivable.
I think that's also sorry. Paroma, are you finished with your point?
Yeah, I'm finished.
I think the other reason that this didn't quite make it onto number one for me is because I think Saya, you mentioned this in our deep dive, but like there was always this element of it's a fairy tale come to life kind of like there was that fairy tale element of like he's the boy in the castle and you know and she comes in and saves him and stuff and like they those fairy tale elements were really cool and interesting and but I think to me it just never kind of crossed completely over to that threshold of reality. Whereas I felt that Just Between Lovers was so much more immediate and like real. And I mean, I don't need to have reality in all of my. Obviously, I watch K dramas, like they're all fantasies. But I guess I just mean that it felt just a little bit too unreal for me to fully immerse myself into that world. And I do think that part of it is also like Yu Sung-ho's acting. Sorry.
Well, I was gonna say before Burma mentioned about what she didn't like was that the other thing that really did work for me was that fairy tale sort of tone. But yeah, I think
Yeah.
took this to death
No,
now. But
thematically, this
and
drama was
also, you
amazing.
guys, you have this habit of like ganging up on me about we're meant to be talking about stuff that we like, and we just brought the whole tone really down there.
Oh, sorry. But look,
You can do
I
that,
will.
but like,
You
yeah,
can do that to my
that
number
wasn't
one, but you guys
quite.
haven't watched it, so.
Yeah. And again, you guys haven't watched my number one either. So whose fault is
Right.
that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yours.
What?
There should be more hours in the day.
That is true. But the thing that I did love about I'm Not a Robot is like I really like Chae Subin in it. I've said this before, but do you guys remember like when there was a part early on in the drama where she was playing the robot and Yusung Ho, she was interacting with Yusung Ho's character and her ex-boyfriend, the genius scientist, saw this interaction and kind of like he got really possessive about her, even though they have no relationship whatsoever. And it infuriated me that he saw her as a possession. Like his creation of the robot at all was really like in her image was really infuriating. All of that stuff, and I didn't think the drama would address it, but then the drama does through Chae Subin's character. I love how she points out that he has no right to intercede, to act like he is trying to protect her from Yusung Ho's character. It's an
Well,
arc that I
she
was not
told him that
expecting.
she told him that he had no right to make decisions about her body, and it was like
Exactly.
it was, and that's what her character does a lot. It's like everyone's agency is preserved and taken back. Like even like following whatever bad things that happen to them, they get to reclaim their agency, and their agency is given the due importance that it ought to have. So,
Yeah, it's actually quite a feminist drama for a drama about a girl pretending to be a robot.
Yeah.
It addressed those things really well.
It did. Yeah, surprisingly well.
Like while you're watching it in the beginning, you're like you're not sure if this is intentional or not, but then as it goes on, you're like actually every part of this was intentional, and it was really well done.
Okay. So our next category is
dramas that should be burned.
Yeah, our worst 3 of the year.
We have expended so much energy talking about these dramas
already.
Yeah.
So let's do our individual ones that only we have on our lists, and then go on to the joint ones.
Okay.
So
mine that was on my disappointing or worst dramas that wasn't on yours is Handsome Guy and Jugum, and I was excited for it because it was the reunion of Nam Gong Min and Hwang Jung-eum, who were like so good together in Can You Hear My Heart, but in that it was like a kind of a unrequited love, unfortunate star-crossed kind of oppa dangsang relationship, and they were so good, both of them in that, and they had chemistry, so I wanted to see them together, but it's just like a really mediocre drama with a stupid plot, and it's just a waste of both of them because they're both so talented, and this drama was so nothing. It was just nothing. It wasn't even like offensively bad. It was just offensive in that it was a waste of all of the cast talents. So
that's really pretty offensive.
Yeah, not offensive in the way that some of the other ones that we're going to talk about were offensive. So,
oh, that's true.
They weren't morally offensive. They were just offensive to my high expectations.
So the one that I've got that we don't have in common is Radio Romance, which so as a footnote to the I'm Not a Robot discussion, the whole, you know, they had some really amazing dialogues, and the conversations and the relationship, like the personal relationship between Yusunga and Chisubin's characters. So like I have to say that's 90% of what has me in love with that show is the dialogues and the conversations and the way the relationships grew. So that was, January concluded with that show. Along comes February, and along comes Radio Romance with, oh my god, a romance straight out from pre-2012 sort of Secret Garden era of, your cold, abusive, abusive-ish hero who does cruel things for lols, and you're like, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
And then there were all of the problems of the whole Kim Seyeon being cast with that 10-year age gap, and all of that is what it is. But the show itself did not, it was not written in a way to make you root for anything. And the age gap made all of its flaws worse, because you have this very young woman being stepped on and used and hurt and tugged around between two much older men, and you're like, no, I don't like this kind of dynamic. And yeah, we've just gotten, we've gotten such good heroes lately. We don't need heroes like this anymore. We need to never have them again.
Yeah.
And also the whole, am I going to do radio or not? That was its least offensive aspect, but everything about the romance I didn't like it at all. And the love triangle, just everything about it was horrible. This drama needs to time travel back to 2010.
Back to where it came from.
Yes. With Kim Seon even more underage.
Let's not. Yeah. So Fox Bride Star. We talked about this. Was it the last Yak or the one before that? Yeah,
last Yak. Yeah,
December one. We talked about
fresh
it.
in our minds. Yes, it's still fresh in our minds. We have gone into details about why this was such a, I don't want to use bad words in our podcast, but I have bad feelings.
Yeah, I mean, it retconned the female character. It completely changed her within like the first couple of weeks, and then like they took a story about a disabled guy and just turned it into this like really ableist, depressing, horrible story about why you don't deserve love if you're not a perfect human specimen that was like got all of your so-called normal faculties. It was just really disappointing.
Also, why death is better than being disabled. That was
yeah.
But I mean, this is on the two of you. Two of yours? Two of yous? I don't know how you say this. How do you say this?
Both of ours.
Both of you. Burn lists, but I haven't put it on mine. I agree with all of the criticism, and I went back and listened to what you guys said about it after I finished watching it. But I feel like I was prepared for it to go that way, so it didn't like offend me as much. Like I knew it was going to go down. So okay. Well, at least security couple got together. That was it. So my feelings about it are not as sort of on fire in the way that, like, I guess I didn't feel betrayed by the drama. I think it's worse when you feel betrayed.
I think knowing something is coming definitely helps.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just.
But yeah,
it was the only saving grace.
But in terms of just the writing, it was so bad. It's not
very
just that
inconsistent.
Very inconsistent, yeah.
They kept starting things and not finishing them.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, I keep interrupting you. Carry on properly.
No, you're absolutely right. That's exactly what they did. They kept starting threads, and then you expect this to go somewhere, and then it just never does. There is that entire thread with Chisobin's father, and aside from him saving
Ijehun.
I'm sorry, Ijehun. Ijehun's character when he was younger, that is like the entirety of his role pretty much, and he introduced him to the scientist. But
is he even alive? That's something I could never figure out. Was he alive or dead?
I think he's dead.
We don't really know.
His character was built up as someone who did something. I don't know. There was such a fable around her father. Like Chesubin could not meet her father for some reason. She asked Lee Jae-hoon's character about stories of her father, and then they never talk about her father. Like it's the weirdest thing. You find out that this guy you have a crush on, that you've just started dating, knew your father whom you have not met in years, and you're like, tell me stories about my dad, and he's like, I'll tell you later, and they never talk about it again.
There are so many things like that.
I felt like at its heart, the drama had something of an identity crisis. Like it didn't know what story it was telling.
Yeah.
Like, and it couldn't pick. It kept going sort of halfway with each sort of thing, and then sort of backing out and going down another route. And you're like, can you figure out what you want to be? Like, is this an airport drama? Is this a workplace drama? Is this a romance? Is this like a superpowered Lee Jae-hoon drama? Like, what is this?
And it's figure it out. The leads, we were so excited to see them together. But it's just I've just learned not to watch anything by this writer in the future, personally.
I wonder, we have been burned badly.
Post Signal, Lee Jae-hoon hasn't really impressed me either. Like I watched Tomorrow with You as well. I don't know. It's just maybe it's like the sort of the afterglow of Signal, where I'm like, Lee Ji-hoon, I have very strong feelings about him because Park Hae-young and everything in Signal.
But he's
So,
good,
like,
but he needs
he is
material in order to do well.
but like
can't
yeah,
carry
but
garbage.
his drama choices don't seem to have sort of worked out for him, which is a shame because he's had such good what is it called? The female leads in the shows that he's done, like the last two, they've been so good, but somehow the shows don't work. Like Shinmina is amazing. But yet that show, you know, I don't know. And Chisubin, you
I
couldn't
stand
have
by
got
my opinion.
a better coaster.
This is like a really short tangent, but I stand my opinion on Tomorrow with You that like if you watch just to the episode where they get married, like that's a movie that you should just stop there. It's very good on its own.
But that whole that's going into completely different
let's not sorry.
Yeah. But I will say this though, that Fox Bright Star, I will remember this drama for the way they showed how an airport works. One of my favorite books as a kid was Arthur Haley's Airport. And I was delighted to see a drama that was set in an airport, not just, with pilots and air hostesses coming in and going out, which we have seen in a drama before, but like the inner
Ground stuff.
workings of the ground stuff of an airport. I love that.
I also grew up reading that book. That's pretty cool. I read that book. I used to love Arthur Haley back in the day.
Did you read Hotel as well? I think that was
Airport.
He was really good at getting into the details of like the smaller details.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're going to talk about its redeeming qualities, the other thing about Fox Bright Star that I really loved was that like the directness of the emotional relationship between what's it called, Lee Ji-hoon and Chisubin. The fact that they could just ask each other questions and it was that direct and it was that simple. Do you like me? Yes. And
their confession scene was really good.
And also, like
the latter half of the drama ruined that for me, unfortunately.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, like this was a drama that I really loved in parts. There were parts of it that I just was like, wow. And it was beautiful. Like to look at, it was gorgeous.
Yeah. To continue the theme of dramas that we really loved in parts. Pretty Noona.
But this is what it is, isn't it? It's worse because you loved it. Then when it goes on to betray you, then you're like, it cuts so much worse. If you were just bad from the beginning, as many dramas were, then you're like, I don't care. You were bad from the start.
Right. I'll just drop you and move on with my life. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's what it was with Pretty Noona Who Buys Me Food, also known as Something in the Rain. But it was just so good in the beginning, and it just went so bad after that, and it was so offensive in the worst way.
I'm still just so surprised when people are like, I loved it, and I'm like, how could you? Like, I feel betrayed that people love it. I'm sorry for anyone.
Right, like usually you're just like, oh, it's a matter of taste with this.
Yeah, like, but in this case, you're like, how are you justifying? Like, in what way can you justify liking this? This is because, okay, the only sort of way that you could justify that in a way that I can understand is saying it was realistic. But that realism itself is offensive because women don't need this kind of realism. I'm sorry. This is daily life. So that kind of realism, you can like it for that. Like, I will accept, okay, you liked it because it was realistic. But to like it as a romance, to like it as, I don't
think I've seen anyone liking it purely as a romance. Maybe one person, but most of the people who like it, they're a small number, but they say that it's very, it's showing like a very flawed character who never changes, which is I think what Son Ye-jin said in her interview.
But the thing is, the drama didn't sell it to you that way. They wanted to sell. This is like they're retconning it. They're saying they're like trying to explain the craptasticness of this drama by saying,
I mean,
it was meant to be like this.
I'm just saying.
I know. I know you're not saying that because I know you hate it as much as I do.
No, and like there's a specific point in the drama which feels like a turning point for her character where she's like, oh, I'm not going to just allow myself to be harassed in the workplace because I feel like I have to anymore. I'm going to speak up. I'm going to change. I'm going to be different. I'm going to turn over a leaf in my life, and then by the end you're just like, oh no, that didn't work, life is depressing and I'm horrible and everyone is horrible and
But also the way that it just kind of fizzles out without actually ever really being addressed, the fact that none of that worked out for her. They just kind of quietly tucked it under the carpet and like hoped you wouldn't notice. And you're left going, what just happened? Like nothing happened, and yet she's acting like she won something. Like, do you like no?
Yeah.
And that show made me so angry.
I think it's also that they give you that so-called happily ever after reunion without giving you any of the reasons why it should have happened, and in fact it makes you feel like it kind of betrays your feelings about them getting together.
But yeah, and it's not a happy ending either, because it's like nobody is saying that these two can't like each other in the moment. That's not the problem with them here.
Yeah.
The problem with them is something different.
And they're never going to be happy because they're just going to keep doing this.
Yeah, and the show made me really hate Son Ye-jin as well. So I don't know if I was planning to watch The Last Princess, which is a film that she did a few years ago, and just when I look at her now, I get angry because I know I can separate character from actor and stuff, but it's one of those things I always sort of have emotional association with actors in their characters for a while. This is why, apart from what's his name has done in the present, after I watched Rooftop Prince, I couldn't enjoy Sung Kyung-kwan's scandal for like the full first half of the show because I hated the Rooftop Prince character of, oh gosh, what's his name? Yoo-chun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's just garbage.
Yeah, I mean, we know that now, but at that time. So,
I know what you mean, because I couldn't hate Son Ye-jin because I've loved her so much in Alone in Love, and I've seen that it made such a deep impression on me. But like Jung Hae-in, this is the only thing we've really seen him in.
Yeah, I don't like him anymore either.
I fell in love with him in the first few weeks, and I was like, oh my god, he's like the breakout performance of 2018, and now I don't want to see his face.
Yeah.
Or I feel betrayed.
Yes. The only person I like from that show, the only person that I want to see again from that show is her brother, a singer. He's the only person that I'm like, I can see your face again. Everyone else can just get out and be gone forever. I'm sure I'll get over this. I mean, Son Ye-jin is a fantastic actress, and maybe she did a little too well, because that character, wow.
Okay. Paroma, do you have any final thoughts on Pretty Noona, or do you think we this dead horse to
I think you covered pretty much everything.
Okay.
I'm still so angry about this show.
So to improve our mood, let's talk about the dramas this year that we missed but are on our list that we really want to watch.
I think we've all got My Odyssey at the top of that list.
Yes! My Odyssey! What else?
Yeah, I really feel like I've missed out so much with not having watched that this year, but there's only so many hours in the day. What can you do?
I'm also planning to watch My ID is Gangnam Beauty. I did have Beauty Inside on my list, but when you were talking about Beauty Inside and how it made you angry at the end, I changed my mind.
Yeah, I mean, basically. Sorry, go on.
It's probably still worth watching just because of the chemistry between Eamon Key and the actress whose name I've forgotten, as I always do. So Hyunjin, yeah. But the chemistry between them is really good. And I liked how the relationship develops until it gets to that crucial point where idiocy happens.
Okay, but forewarned is forearmed, I guess. So.
Yeah, I think so. And yeah. Oh, I missed out on Misty, which is sad because I think Anisa, you were watching Misty, right?
So yeah, Misty is actually one that I watched 6 episodes and then I got behind, and those 6 were incredible, mind-blowingly good. And then I heard that a lot of people were disappointed by the ending, and now people are saying that watch it knowing that that's the ending and you'll enjoy it more. So I'm thinking of going back to it because I feel like it was one of those where it was the last 15 minutes were kind of disappointing, but everything up till then was incredible. So I might go back to that. So it depends on whether you're willing to go into that knowing about the ending. What else? Not sure.
I've also got Just Between Lovers, which I actually had been planning to watch since like last year. So I don't know how I ended up missing out on watching that live, because I totally meant to and it just didn't happen.
Definitely watch it.
Yeah, that's a definite. And not to mention all of the other shows that you guys have mentioned in the past 2 hours? Whatever.
Many hours.
many hours. And also the other one that I really want to finish, because I started this and like accidentally dropped it, which is a Woohoo Waikiki, aka Laughter in Waikiki. This has another name on Netflix with Waikiki in it, but I can't remember if it's like Hello Waikiki or something.
It's on Netflix?
It is.
Yeah,
I just
it's on Netflix now.
UK Netflix anyway.
Oh, interesting.
No, it's on Indian Netflix as well. Netflix has added a lot of K-dramas in the last few months.
Yeah, they've got a very maybe I don't know. Yeah,
they have certain links.
Don't know if they've bought them out from other previous providers. Anyway, so yeah, that's one that, especially because like I'm watching Red Moon Blue Sun right now, which is its official name is Children of Nobody. Its official English title, and Lee Kyung, who is the detective in that, doing a really good job. So I'm more invested in watching this again. Also, I miss Kim Jung Hyun on the screen after what happened with time.
Yeah.
And now, like after seeing Jung In Sun in Terrius, it's like I know this cast much better now. So I think I really enjoyed it even then, but I think I got to this point where I was just scared of the terrible thing that was about to happen in episode 3 or something. I was like,
oh really? I watched episode 1 and I was like, I hate this. It's so bad. And
then which drama are we talking about?
Waikiki. Waikiki.
Oh, okay.
It's really funny, but in that sort of broad humor type of way, which I think I can tell is not Anisa's type of humor.
I think it's just I just didn't find it funny, and I just was missing.
Whereas it's like the perfect level for me.
Well, that's the thing with humor, right? It's so individual to the person.
Yeah. So. It's very lowbrow and very sort of physical humor as well.
Yeah, physical humor generally tends not to work with me either. So I was okay with the first episode, but I thought I would go and watch the second one, but then I guess I never did. So.
But I've heard a lot of like really sort of
I mean people really seem to love that one this year.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Another one on my list is Matrimonial Chaos, which was one of those that like I was interested when I heard of the casting, and then like I just never watched it because of time or whatever. But people seem to really like it. It's got Cha Tae-han and Bae-duna, which both of whom I really love, and it's a remake of the Japanese drama Saiko no Rikon, which is like literally means best divorce. So it's about, I think, 2 married couples. But anyway, I heard that it was really good, and it seems to be one of those slice of life shows that I really enjoy, so I'm going to pick that back up at some point. Or I'm going to start it. I'm sorry, I never started it.
Was that originally a novel, or was that originally a drama?
It was originally a Japanese drama.
Okay. Because I think I recall that this is from the same writer as the Japanese version of Mother, but I don't know if that's referring to the drama.
I think it's the drama writer that's the name, Yuji Sakamoto.
Okay. I'm not that familiar with Japanese writers, so wouldn't know at all. Just remember that was why I wanted to watch it, but I never got around to it. I'm going to wait for your take on it now, though.
Okay. Paroma, did you have any more that you are planning to pick up that you didn't mention?
I wanted to watch live as well. I don't know if I'll be able to, but it's on my list.
Okay. What's our next category?
Dramas we want to give a second chance.
Yeah. Like something that we may have started watching but then dropped.
I kind of already talked about mine, right? That was Misty. So I'll let you guys talk about yours.
Okay. So for me, it would be Just Between Lovers. I think I watched the first 3 episodes. It was around the time when the female lead joins the office, like her new office, and that was around episode 3, right?
I think
So
so.
yeah, and it's the thing with this drama is that its pace is very steady, at least up to episode 3. I don't know what happens after that, but because it's so steady and the plot develops so steadily. I
Slowly.
can't seem to think of
I
another
think you
word.
want to say slow, right?
Not slow. That's exactly the thing. It's not slow. At no point do you feel like the pace is lagging. I know that I would enjoy watching it. I know from Anisa that I would definitely enjoy watching it, but just as much as I had seen it was enough to tell me that I am going to like this drama. I already like the characters in the drama, but because of the very quiet pace, I started watching something else at that point, I think, and I never got back to this. So there was no like real reason for me to stop watching this. This has always been on my radar, so I just have to find the right moment to get back to it.
What about you, Saya?
For me, it would be Mr. Sunshine, which I watched about three. I can't remember if it was 3 or 4 episodes of, and I didn't intentionally drop it. I kind of just sort of put it on the side for a while because I was busy or whatever, and then I ended up just not watching it again, like not picking it up. But I've heard from more than one quarter that it was worth the watch, and I have like historically enjoyed Kim and Suk dramas. I loved Goblin, I love Descendants of the Sun, her recent dramas that is, and yes, I do still have. I think actually part of the reason at the moment that I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to watch this, was when they was sort of pushing that romance with Lee Byung Hun and Kim Tae, and I felt a bit icked out by that. But because it's much more of an ensemble drama, maybe it would not be so bad. And I do like that the historical setting, and I heard that it gets epic, so I'm gonna give it another shot.
If you end up loving it, then I will watch it too, because I dropped it
Okay.
after episode 4 too.
Oh, okay, so we dropped it at about the same point.
I think so.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I shall report back.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so our next thing is
we thought it would be fun to also talk about dramas that didn't air this year but that we watched this year. Just very
And we finally watched this year.
Yeah,
just a best and a worst.
Yeah, for each of us.
Yeah, I don't actually have a worst. I watched both. I watched both these dramas. I don't know why I haven't watched them before, because I love So and Cook, but somehow I managed to not finish Shopping King Louis and High School King of Savi. I'd watched both like halfway through and never finished them, and I finished them this year, and of course I loved them in both.
Of course,
unsurprisingly.
No more to be said.
Yeah. I also didn't have a worst. My only one that I watched that was non-2018 this year was Age of Youth 2. And I think that's because when it originally came out, the subs were really, really slow. And then this year I noticed that it was on Netflix. So I just watched the whole thing and I loved it. It was so good. Watch it.
I still haven't watched the first one.
Oh my god, girl, you have
It's
no
on my list.
excuse.
It's on my list.
Both seasons are on Netflix. Binge watch them. Okay.
So the only reason I have a worst is because I watched Full House. Okay. I think we've said all that needs to be said on that.
Yeah.
A drama that did not age well. My best, I actually watched quite a few non-2018 dramas this year. The best is kind of a tie because I'm like, so I've got Argon, which is a 2017 drama, and Doctors 2016, and I don't want to not mention one or the other, though I did mean to choose because, like, objectively speaking, like Argon it's a drama that should be watched. It's like it's a very socially meaningful drama. It's about the late Kim Ji-hyuk, who I think I talked about in one
You
of the
did,
yaks.
yeah.
Right. So
On one of the yaks.
it's very short. It's 8 episodes. But it has a lot of sort of impact, especially given the times that we're living in. And then you have Doctors, which is just a romance, and it's Ham Young-hee, who is the writer of Temperature of Love, and basically since Temperature of Love, I've been slowly working through her back catalogue, and I don't know why I missed out watching this when it aired, and I remember Paroma saying how much she loved it, and me being unconvinced. But yeah, it's all it's got all of the hallmarks of Humming dramas, which is really well drawn relationships and very sort of squeeze them in parts.
I want to watch both of those. Those are both on my list.
And I think both of them are on Netflix as well, I believe.
Even Doctors. Oh,
I think I saw it on it the other day.
Yeah, Doctors is definitely on Netflix.
Although I don't know if Netflix US would have
Argon definitely is for Netflix
Yes.
US, but I'll have to check about Doctors. Yeah.
Although Doctors you should probably watch on Viki, their subs are better.
Okay. Thanks for the tip. Yeah.
And finally,
Our last category, which is honorable mention for just one non-Korean anything, a drama, movie, whatever you guys want to let.
Movie? I thought this was only for you can't change the rules right at the end.
Okay, no, it's a drama. Okay, it's something
it has to be a drama.
multiple
TV
episodes.
show. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Who wants to go first?
You guys go first.
Paroma?
Oh,
Go first?
okay.
You don't want to go.
Why can't I ever go last?
I can go
You want
first.
to?
You don't have to. I can go first.
Go.
Minus Kim's Convenience, which we talked at like to extreme length on One Day Yaks, but it's a sitcom about a Korean-Canadian family with their own convenience store in Toronto. It just makes me happy. It's beautiful. It's lovely. It's warm. It's hilarious. I love it.
Appa is the best.
Appa is the best.
Although
Okay,
Amma
see
is
you.
kind of the best too.
Yeah, they're all great. Hashtag okay, see you. I'm waiting for season 3 to be available.
After I watched that, I it was in my head, so I'd have customers and be like, okay, see you. And then laugh to myself for like a full minute afterwards because I've done that.
And people are like, oh, this crazy lady, what's she doing? Okay.
Well,
Who's next?
yeah, I can do that. Okay, so mine would be Timeless, which I have wanted to talk about all year, but keeps getting cut out of our Yak lists because of time constraints.
Sorry.
But yes, Timeless, which is CBS drama. I don't know. Let me check this before I say something dumb.
Wait, it's American? I thought it was British.
No.
Oh.
Timeless. NBC.
Oh, okay.
So NBC drama. This is American, right? It's not like Canadian. I can't tell.
It's American. It's American.
Okay. Yeah, it has to be. It's a time travel drama about a 3-person team who lots of things happen. They go back in time to change history or to save history from being changed by time traveling terrorists. What's really great about this show is that it is an actively inclusive show. The hero, like the central group of this show is, a woman who is a university lecturer. She's a historian. It's a black guy. He's like a top engineer thingy. I'm sure he has a more fancy title that I don't know because I'm dumb. And then you have your token white guy who actually turns out not to be an idiot, except sometimes he is. You have a woman of color who is one of the major love interests. It's just these characters, they're not just their colors. They're not just like, the women or whatever. They are such, like, they're full people, and none of them are token, and everything is I love this show to bits. And the time travel segments, that the time traveling that they do, they go into sort of these well-known events in American history or sometimes world history, and they will dig out like the hidden figures in that story, the
nice.
women, the people of color, and they will tell those stories. And they chose to do that. And this is a show that got cancelled twice. Like, it got cancelled at the end of the first season, and then there was so much fan uproar that it was kind of resurrected for a shortened second season, and then it got cancelled again. I mean, it's an expensive show to produce, and they couldn't justify it based on ratings because, it's a niche sci-fi show, and nobody really wants to see colored people or women frontlining shows. They just, that's like a demographic truth about the way the stuff works.
I mean, it's changing slowly, but network television is kind of on the back end of that.
Yeah, so they just wrapped up with a 2-hour sort of series finale Christmas movie special thing to just tie up the story as, I guess, fan service. So I'm kind of on a high from that, and it's a really good show. I think you guys would love it. You should watch it.
Okay, that definitely sounds really good. We'll check it out.
And it will, especially maybe for you, Anisa, it will be different because those events of history will actually be familiar to you, whereas, for me, everything was new.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I'll check it out.
My last one is a Chinese drama. I haven't been talking much about the Chinese dramas that I've been watching.
I've noticed.
But I have been
not lately.
So I wanted to talk about Eternal Love, which is a drama every person who's ever watched Chinese dramas knows about. It's great, is all I want to say, and has a happy ending. In case anybody was wondering.
How many episodes long is it?
What?
So Anisa asked what year is it, and I asked how many episodes long is it.
Oh, so I don't know what year. I think it's 2016. And I think it's about 50 episodes. It's longish.
Oh my
goodness. Oh wow. That's intense.
But
okay.
The one that I actually want to talk about, that was a cursory mention, is Sweet Combat. It's I have mentioned this drama before. I told you guys that this reminded me a little bit of weightlifting fairy Kimbap Noona in that the female mixed martial artists were not treated like, oh, they are female and, can only fight with, I don't know, other females and are not a threat to or not respected by men. It's not that kind of a portrayal. These women are athletes and they are treated with respect by everybody. Their level of competence is acknowledged. But the best part about this drama, the thing that really hooked, like most Chinese dramas, it goes on and on. So yeah, there are parts that lag. But the best part about the premise is that the hero here, played by Liu Han, is he's someone who's learning mixed martial arts, and he's taught by the heroine. Like, she is so far above his pay grade as far as, athletic skill is concerned, that nobody in the drama is even suggesting that he can take her on. That's not even it's something that anybody would even, that's not even a test of his manhood. That's not even considered. You know how amazing that is when the hero's competence at something is not immediately matched against the heroine, and the heroine's competence has to be dismissed so that the hero can be established as a man.
Yeah,
it's so amazing to watch a drama where the heroine is clearly the sunbae. She is just superior in terms of skill and the amount of time that she's put into developing her skills. So she's just a set apart, and he is and he is tutored by 2 other women, like the people who teach him and the people who bring him his skills up to the level where he can fight his own battles. These 2 are also women. So I really love this drama, and there are flaws that we can talk about at some other time, but I just want to hold this up as something that 2018 gave me and I loved. So yeah.
Now, I was just going to ask, that's awesome. I was just going to ask if you ended up finishing it and if you felt it was worth watching. Did you finish the whole thing?
So I still have the last 10 episodes left to finish, because this is again a long drama and it took the subbers on Viki some time to finish subbing it. But I have watched majority of the drama, and so far, like I've told you, it's a Chinese drama, so there are certain sections where it just keeps going on and on, but they are consistent with the characters. They don't break out of the mold. Oh, and also the female character here plays the cold-hearted chaebol, and the male character is basically the candy. So, but they don't fall into the pitfalls of the trope that these stereotypes established. So it's a really sweet love story, but more
Awesome.
importantly, it's something really fresh.
Nice. Okay, I think we covered our year in dramas. Oh my
We've
gosh.
exhausted our list and ourselves.
Yeah. We've exhausted the day. We've exhausted.
We've particularly exhausted Burma.
Yeah.
Like, was it like 3 a.m.? No, like later.
Oh yeah, it's 2:30 a.m. now.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you, listeners, for spending the year with us. I just want to give a shout out to the fact that like we had a lot of milestones for our podcast too. We had our first year anniversary. Yes. We did our first podcast audio commentary. We figured out our format, which we were like struggling with in the beginning. And you guys are like supporting us on our Patreon, which is like a dream that we didn't even know we could imagine to dream. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to us, guys. That's just, it's so amazing to have listeners. Every time we put out these podcasts and we watch the listener number go up, it makes us feel really warm.
Yeah, it's a joy that's unlike anything else, honestly. So thank you.
It's also amazing to have our listeners like talk back as well, because I mean it's the three of us here and we talk to each other, but we also, you know, we are aware that we are talking to everyone who's listening, and sometimes it can feel like screaming into the void, and other times someone talks to us and we're like, oh my god, someone
wonderful.
Listened.
Yeah.
That's really, you know, the fact that people take the time out of their day to listen to us, but then to let us know that they've listened to us, that's next level, man.
Your emails are very precious to us, and your tweets and everything.
And your company, even when you're not feeling social, that, you know, that's fine. It's amazing to know that you're listening.
Yes,
thank you so much to everybody who's listening to this.
Yes, and Happy New Year, and may the New Year bring you many beautiful blessings and happiness.
Amen.
Bye, guys.
Bye,
everyone.